Sometimes I take a bowl of banana and onion peels to the compost pile at night, and sometimes the sky is dark and cloudless, and I stand deliberately in the shadows of my old carriage house. If the moon isn't too bright, I can look up and see thousands and thousands of twinkling lights, and on occasion, a shooting one. Sometimes my neck hurts from looking vertical for too long. And then when I come back in, everyone asks where I've been. I thought you just went to take out the compost. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and really thought about how big it all is? It's so huge, it can make you feel dizzy, so grand, it can't quite fit into our imagination. Or perhaps you feel a bit of terror and panic as you can't come to terms with the meaning behind all this vast space. What is the point to all this endlessness? It is okay to say you don't know. It is okay to wonder and think the earth and the moon might be friends. Who knows? After all, the invisible forces of attraction rule the universe. In all this awe, we can make a promissory note with not knowing, a tender treaty, a covenant with mystery. Now, covenant language was all around us Unitarians from the beginning. We trace our style of doing religious community to the churches of the Standing Order in New England. 1648's Cambridge Platform, a document that describes in detail how a church is to be set up, self-governed, and run in the spirit of mutual love, and started by the community, not a bishop or the Church of England. Covenant is an essential concept of what we call our current governance structure. Amidst its antiquated language and biblical references, the Cambridge Platform speaks of journeying together, traveling in the spirit of love with one another. Covenant is still all around us. The preamble of our 7 principles begins with, we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote. So we freely agree to be associated together in covenant. Covenant is what we do. Many of our small groups and RE classes start by creating a covenant, a written document of how we will be together. This congregation has a behavioral covenant, which spells out what behaviors are not acceptable. And the church council has a covenant. When you called me to be your minister, we developed a covenantal relationship, and we agreed both implicitly and explicitly to be together in a certain way. This was all affirmed in ceremony at my installation. I call all of these covenants I just mentioned horizontal covenants. They are promises we make with each other as equals. Like when we sign the membership book, we are entering into an applied covenant as equals with each other. Some congregations have more theological statements as covenants, like our chalice lighting words from earlier. Love is the covenant of this church, which can become more vertical in nature. But the concept of covenant goes deeper and deeper into history than colonial America. According to the Hebrew scriptures, after God destroyed the earth with a flood, God then established a covenant with Noah, his faithful ark captain. Never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth, God promises. And God sets a rainbow in the clouds as a sign of that covenant between God and the whole earth. As a side note, believe it or not, a conservative Christian once said to me that the homosexuals are stealing our symbols. And I was like, oh, really? Which symbols are they stealing? And they said, the rainbow. From the scriptures, the rainbow is clearly everyone's symbol. Later in the Hebrew scriptures, God makes a covenant with Abraham and says, I will indeed bless you and make your offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky and sand on the seashore. Now, I suspect Ursula Goodenough may very well have had the Abrahamic covenant in mind when she coined the phrase covenant with mystery. This covenant with Abraham is considered the first covenant with Israel. God promised to stay with the Jews, to never abandon them because they were God's chosen people, and all Israel needed to do was to follow the Torah in response. However, the writers of the Hebrew scriptures did not invent covenant, a divine promise or agreement. It was actually borrowed from ancient Middle East culture where a strong king or warlord would say to another group of people, I won't destroy you and will actually protect you if you give me some sheep once a year. So to use a medieval term, they became vassals. Covenant was originally a type of treaty, a legal term, a formal bond between a powerful entity and a less powerful one. So I would call that type of covenant and God's covenant with Abraham and Noah a vertical covenant, a covenant with mystery, I think, brings this vertical dimension back into our covenant language, our covenant that we have with each other. Our covenant then becomes more than the way that we aim to be together. A covenant with mystery gives us permission to not know. It gives permission to be surprised, to experiment and get caught up in the awe as part of our faith. In this case, the great powerful other is not God, but the unknowable other of all origins, a covenant with mystery. Having some vertical element to our covenant makes things more spiritual, more religious, more, I don't know, mystical. We are to revel in mystery, play in it, pray in it, and make a relationship with it. Now, 195 years ago, a small group of Universalists formed this congregation, and I have no doubt that they had a vertical as well as a horizontal covenant in mind. They were not organizing a country club, but a beloved sacred community where we would contemplate the sands of the seashore and the stars of the sky together. They believed in a love that would not let anyone down, and so today, mystery will never break a covenant with us. Attaching the mystery with this heavy religious word of covenant restores a vertical or transcendent element to covenant that we can transcend little old me, I, and we can transcend 3.5 East Main Street, that our moral and ethical and spiritual framework can and should be beyond humanity to all that is. Mystery is that great power, much, much larger than we are. Mystery makes us realize how much easier it is to answer the hows than it is to answer the whys. The vague grandeur can leave us speechless and without direction. The incomprehensible nature of things can leave us in a depressed black hole, but it need not be that way. The renowned physicist Steven Weinberg once said, "The more the universe seems comprehensible, the more it seems pointless." In other words, the more we understand about everything, the more it doesn't seem to have a human-centered meaning to it at all. The universe just is, and it happened due to the laws of physics. It was hoped in the past, I'm sure, that by studying nature, humans would find the sign of a grand plan, a creator God in which human beings play a particularly distinguished starring role. But the cosmic drama has unfolded and we have just bit parts. We are emergent tool using language makers. We are little more than accidents of the cosmos, but oh, so sweet, lovely, and precious accidents. If we ask ourselves, why are these laws of physics actually here? If we answer those questions with God, we could also ask, why God? This becomes a string of whys. God can't be an answer. A better answer is no explanation. Instead of having our necks ache from looking vertically, we can get out a blanket or get out a telescope. Nature is enough. The what isness is more than enough. And the fact that we are made up of this what isness, these neurons communicating in electrical signals, how we evolved from sponges into these complicated bodies of cells working together with the elements and physics, is all a glorious mystery. Yet, the more we study the universe, even with the naked eye in our backyards, we see all the strangeness, how it doesn't make sense to a human-centered way of thinking of things, our horizontal minds. It doesn't have to have a grand point. Horizontal and vertical meet in relationship with ourselves on these blue-green hills of earth. Our point is to live in covenant with each other. And there are so many people not living covenantally that we have to double down and live double covenantally and truly develop a moral universe that goes beyond our species, beyond our generations. In that way, bound up in a covenant of mystery, we are more than a group of people coming together trying to be nice. We also have the mystery of 100 billion stars and a moral imperative to stop human-made climate change and protect all species as much as we can. We are puny and powerless compared to the planets. And if we ever needed a reminder of that, humans are not almighty and invincible, we have to only look at the small, seemingly invisible force of a coronavirus. Our covenant is simply to come together once a week in a routine to encourage each other to build daily habits of inner peace, to create justice, to live love, to discover truth together, and build beloved community. This we are capable of. Unlocking the locus of life is local. And there is a mystery here in the fact that we are gathered together this morning at all on computers, cell phones, tablets, to ponder what is, to think seriously about this thing we call meaning. Is it not a mystery to be gathered here this hour together? Yes, it is a sweet, wonder-filled, satisfying, precious covenant with mystery we all share together. Amen, and blessed be.